Oh, Venus? Yeah, we ran out of seats at the main tables. There's a folding chair by the hallway bathroom. You'll be fine there. My mother's voice didn't even carry hesitation. She said it the way you'd tell someone where to find extra napkins. Casual, dismissive, already turning away before I could respond. I stood there in the marble foyer of the Riverside Manor, holding a carefully wrapped gift in both hands, wearing a navy dress I'd chosen specifically because Bianca once said it made me look elegant. The venue stretched out behind my mother, vaulted ceilings strung with white roses, champagne towers catching the afternoon light, 200 guests in silken linen filling tables decorated like something out of a magazine. And I was being sent to sit by a bathroom. My name is Venus Williams. I'm 29 years old. I work as a marketing consultant in Seattle, and I've spent the last decade building a life my family barely acknowledges. But today, at my sister's wedding, I wasn't just forgotten. I was erased. I watched my mother glide back toward the ballroom, her pale pink dress trailing behind her like she was the one getting married. She didn't look back. She never did. Not when it came to me. Bianca was 26, beautiful in the way that made people stop mid-sentence, charming in the way that made them forgive anything. Today, she was marrying Marcus Hale, a surgeon with perfect teeth and a family portfolio that included a summer home in Nantucket. Our parents had paid for everything: the dress, the flowers, the venue, the honeymoon in Tuscany. I'd paid my own way through college while Bianca's tuition checks cleared without question. I started walking, not toward the ballroom, toward the hallway my mother had mentioned. My heels clicked against the polished floor, and I felt eyes on me. A woman in a silver gown leaned toward her husband and whispered something. An older man I didn't recognize gave me a polite nod, the kind you give service staff. A cousin I hadn't seen in years stepped into my path near the coat check. "Excuse me," she said, smiling brightly. "Are you with the catering team? I think someone's looking for you in the kitchen." I stared at her. She stared back, waiting. "No," I said quietly. "I'm the bride's sister." Her smile faltered. She blinked twice, then laughed awkwardly and moved past me without another word. I kept walking. The hallway was narrow and dim compared to the ballroom. Soft gray walls, a single potted fern in the corner, and there it was, a folding chair, white plastic, the kind you'd see at a church basement fundraiser. It sat 3 feet from the restroom door, which had a bronze plaque that read "Powder Room" in scripted letters. I could hear the music starting inside the ballroom, laughter, clinking glasses, the low hum of 200 people celebrating someone they loved. No one was looking for me. I turned my head and saw them, through the open double doors, my family, seated at the head table beneath a floral arch that probably cost more than my rent. My father Robert, tall and proud in his gray suit, raising a glass. My mother beside him, glowing. And Bianca, radiant in white lace, laughing at something Marcus whispered in her ear. None of them glanced toward the hallway. Not once. I looked down at the gift in my hands. I'd spent weeks choosing it. A set of vintage crystal wine glasses I'd found at an estate sale, each one wrapped in tissue paper, packed carefully so nothing would break. I'd written a card. I'd signed it. "With love, Venus." I set the gift down on the folding chair. Then I turned and walked back the way I'd come, past the cousin who thought I was catering staff, past the woman in the silver gown, past the champagne towers and the white roses and the vaulted ceilings that didn't have room for me. I walked straight to the coat check, collected my jacket, and stepped outside into the cool September air. The parking lot was quiet. A few valets stood near the entrance, scrolling on their phones. One of them glanced up as I passed, but I didn't stop. I reached my car, unlocked it, and slid into the driver's seat. For a moment, I just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, engine off, the muffled sound of music drifting from the venue behind me. Then I started the car, put it in reverse, and drove away. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just the soft click of the exit gate closing behind me. The highway stretched out in front of me, empty and dark except for the rhythm of streetlights passing overhead. Yellow, dark, yellow, dark. I kept my hand steady on the wheel, my eyes on the road, and let the silence fill the car. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry yet. I was just driving. The reception would be starting now. Dinner service, toasts. My father standing up to say something about how proud he was of Bianca, how she'd always been destined for greatness, how Marcus was lucky to have found her. My mother would dab at her eyes with a folded napkin. Guests would applaud, and no one would notice I was gone. The realization didn't hit like a slap. It settled in slowly, like something I'd always known but never let myself say out loud. This wasn't new. This was a pattern I'd been living inside of for 29 years. I thought about my high school graduation. I'd been valedictorian. I gave a speech in front of 400 people. I wore a white dress under my blue gown because my mother said it would photograph well. But halfway through the ceremony, my parents stood up and left. Quietly. Quickly. I saw them slip out the side exit while the principal was still calling names. Bianca had a dance recital that night. A solo performance. They didn't want to miss it. I found out later they took her out for ice cream afterward. No one came to my graduation party. I'd reserved a table at a restaurant near campus, sent invitations, bought a cake. I sat there for an hour and a half, alone, while the waiter kept asking if I wanted to order. I told him I was still waiting for people to arrive. Eventually, I ordered a single plate of pasta, ate half of it, and left. Then there was my promotion. 2 years ago. I'd been named senior consultant at my firm, youngest person in the company to reach that level. I was proud. I wanted to celebrate. So I invited my family to dinner in Seattle, picked a nice place, made a reservation for 6. My parents said they'd try to make it. Bianca said she'd check her schedule. No one showed. I sat at that table too, ordered a glass of wine, stared at the empty chairs. When the waiter asked if I was ready to order, I told him I'd wait a little longer. I waited until the reservation time passed. Then I paid for the wine and left. My 28th birthday was last year. I didn't plan anything that time. I'd learned. But I thought maybe someone would remember. A text, a call, a card in the mail. Nothing. 3 days later, Bianca called. She was breathless with excitement. Marcus had proposed. She wanted to tell me all about it. The ring, the restaurant, the way he got down on one knee. She talked for 40 minutes. She never asked how I was. She never mentioned my birthday. I don't think she even realized. The apartment building came into view, lit by a single street lamp near the entrance. I pulled into my usual spot, turned off the engine, and sat there for a moment in the quiet. I grabbed my purse and walked inside. The lobby was empty. The elevator hummed softly as it carried me up to the 4th floor. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and set my keys on the counter next to the wedding gift I'd brought back with me. The gift I'd spent weeks choosing. The gift no one would even know I'd left behind. I didn't turn on the lights. I just walked to the couch and sat down in the dark. That's when my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 3 times in a row. I pulled it out of my purse and looked at the screen. A text from my mother. Then my Aunt Linda. Then Bianca. I didn't open them. I just watched the screen light up again and again, casting a pale glow across the dark room. My thumb hovered over the power button. I thought about all the times I'd answered immediately, all the times I'd made myself available, all the times I'd shown up even when no one showed up for me. Then I pressed down. The screen went black, and I sat there in the silence, alone, with nothing but the sound of my own breathing. I woke up to sunlight slicing through the blinds and the sound of my phone vibrating against the nightstand. Over and over. A relentless hum that pulled me out of sleep like an alarm I couldn't silence. I reached for it without thinking, still half asleep, and saw the screen flooded with notifications. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, all from the same handful of people. I sat up slowly, my chest tight, and started reading. My mother's name appeared first. 3 messages in a row. "Where did you go? You embarrassed us. Call me immediately. Bianca is devastated. I can't believe you would do this to her. Answer your phone, Venus." Then Bianca. "Seriously, Venus? On my wedding day? You're so selfish. Everyone noticed you left. Do you even care how that made me look?" I can't believe you. Then my Aunt Linda. Your mother is beside herself. What were you thinking? You owe your sister an apology. Family comes first, Venus. You should know that. I stared at the words until they blurred together. My hands were shaking, not from anger, from something older than that, something I'd been trained to feel since I was a child. Guilt, the instinct to apologize, to shrink, to say I was sorry for existing in a way that made them uncomfortable, to fix it, to smooth it over, to make myself smaller so everyone else could breathe easier. I felt the pull of it, the years of conditioning, the automatic response already forming in my mind. But I didn't type anything. I set the phone down on the bed and stood up. I walked to the kitchen, filled the coffee maker with water, and pressed start. The sound of it brewing filled the silence. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. I thought about the wedding, not the ceremony, the planning, the months leading up to it. I'd helped. Of course I had. I coordinated the bridesmaids' brunch, found the venue, made the reservations, arranged the flowers, sent the invitations. I spent 2 weeks putting together gift bags for each bridesmaid, personalized candles, monogrammed robes, handwritten notes. I wasn't invited to the brunch as a guest. I was there to help set up, to make sure everything ran smoothly, to refill the champagne glasses and take photos. Then I left before they sat down to eat. Bianca thanked me on the way out. She said, "You're so good at this stuff." I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, not a bridesmaid, not even an usher. When I asked my mother why, she said Bianca wanted to keep the bridal party small, intimate, just her closest friends. There were 9 bridesmaids. My parents paid $40,000 for that wedding. The venue, the flowers, the photographer, the 7-tier cake, the open bar, the string quartet. I wasn't consulted about the seating chart. I didn't even know where I was sitting until my mother told me in the foyer, casually, like it didn't matter. The coffee maker beeped. I poured a cup, walked to the window, and sat down in the chair that faced the street below. The morning light was soft and gray. A few people walked past with dogs, a jogger in a bright yellow jacket. I set the coffee on the side table and pulled out the journal I hadn't touched in 3 years. It was leather-bound, a gift from a coworker who said I seemed like someone who had a lot to say. I'd written in it twice. Then I stopped. I didn't know why. I opened it now, flipped past the 2 old entries, and found a blank page. I picked up a pen and wrote, "I left because I finally saw what I've always known. I don't exist to them unless I'm useful." I stared at the sentence. Then I kept writing. I've spent 29 years trying to earn a place at a table that was never set for me. I paused. My hand was cramping. My throat felt tight. I don't know if anyone else has ever felt this. Like you're a supporting character in your own family's story. Like no matter what you do, you're never quite enough to be seen, to be remembered, to matter. If you have, I hope you stay with me. I hope you see what happens when you finally stop playing the role they wrote for you. When you stop apologizing for taking up space. When you stop waiting for them to notice you're gone. Maybe you'll want to hear how this ends. Maybe you'll even understand why I'm about to do what I do next. If you do, if this feels familiar, stay close. Like this story. Subscribe to see where it goes. Because I promise you, I'm not going back. I'm not shrinking. I'm not disappearing. Not anymore. I closed the journal and set it on the table next to my coffee. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up my email, and started typing. My fingers moved slowly at first, then faster. I didn't stop until I'd written everything I needed to say. The calls didn't stop. They multiplied. By noon, my father had left a voicemail. I listened to it while standing in my kitchen, staring at the coffee cup I'd forgotten to wash. His voice was flat, irritated. "Venus, this is childish. You owe your sister an apology. Call your mother back." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What happened?" Just annoyance, like I'd missed a dentist appointment or forgotten to return a borrowed book. I deleted it and moved to the next message. My Aunt Linda again. "Your mother is heartbroken. Please just call her." Then Bianca's best friend, someone I barely knew. "Hey, Bianca wanted me to reach out. She's really hurt. Maybe just text her?" I set the phone down and walked away from it. None of them asked if I was okay. Not one. They didn't ask why I left. They didn't acknowledge the hallway, the folding chair, the bathroom sign 3 feet from where I was supposed to sit. They only cared about how it looked, how my absence reflected on them. I spent the afternoon cleaning. I vacuumed. I wiped down counters. I organized the bookshelf I'd been meaning to fix for months. Anything to keep my hands busy. Anything to stop myself from thinking too much. And then, just before 5, someone knocked on my door. 3 sharp raps. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother standing in the hallway, her arms crossed, her mouth set in a tight line. I took a breath and opened the door, but I didn't step aside. She looked at me, waiting. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Her voice was low and controlled, the kind of anger that doesn't need volume. "People are talking. Bianca cried all night." I didn't move. Did she cry because I left or because someone finally noticed I wasn't there? Her face tightened. "Don't be dramatic. It was just a seating issue. You're making this about you. It was my sister's wedding, Mom, and I was seated in a hallway." She waved a hand like I was being ridiculous. "There were over 200 guests, Venus. Not everyone can sit at the head table." I wasn't asking for the head table. I was asking not to be put next to a bathroom. "You've always been sensitive." She said it like a diagnosis, like something wrong with me. Bianca didn't mean anything by it. You know how weddings are. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt something settle in my chest, something cold and clear. "I know how this family is," I said. Her expression changed. The controlled anger shifted into something sharper. "You need to apologize," she said, "publicly, on the family group chat. And if you want to fix this properly, you should post something on social media too. People saw you leave. They're asking questions." I stared at her. "You want me to apologize?" I said slowly. "For leaving. Yes. For walking out of a wedding where I was seated in a hallway." "You're twisting this." "I'm not apologizing." The words came out calm, firm, final. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes went cold. "Then you're making a choice," she said. "You're choosing to hurt this family." "No, Mom, I'm choosing not to disappear for you anymore." She didn't say anything. She just looked at me like I was a stranger, like she didn't recognize me at all. Then she turned and walked down the hallway without another word. I watched her go, watched her press the elevator button, watched the doors open and close. I shut my door and locked it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the weight of what I'd just done. I'd said no, and I hadn't apologized for it. I sat down on the couch and picked up my phone. I didn't want to look, but I knew I had to. I opened Instagram. Bianca had posted a story 20 minutes ago. The timestamp glowed at the top of the screen. It was a photo of her and Marcus at the reception, smiling, holding champagne glasses. The caption was written in white text over a dark filter. "When people show you who they are, believe them. Family isn't always blood." I read it twice, then a third time. I felt something crack open inside me. Not sadness, not even anger. Clarity. She wasn't hurt. She was performing. This wasn't about me leaving. It was about control. About making sure I stayed in the role they'd written for me. The role where I apologized, where I made myself small, where I fixed things I didn't break. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to play along. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the email I'd started that morning, the one I'd been afraid to send, and I pressed send. The email came 2 days later. I almost deleted it. The subject line read, "Estate of Eleanor Williams urgent," and I thought it was spam, some phishing scam using my grandmother's name. But something made me open it anyway. It was from a law office in Portland, Morrison and Fletcher. The lawyer's name was Richard Fletcher. He said he'd been trying to reach me for weeks, but had outdated contact information. He apologized for the delay. Then he said something that made my breath catch. My grandmother had left me a bequest, $50,000, and a letter. I read the email 3 times. Then I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. My grandmother died 8 months ago. I'd flown home for the funeral. I sat in the third row at the service because the first two were reserved for immediate family. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too numb. After the burial, my father pulled me aside in the church parking lot. He looked tired, uncomfortable. "There's no inheritance," he said. "Your grandmother's estate is going toward family expenses, medical bills, final arrangements. You understand." I nodded. I didn't ask questions. I just said okay and drove back to the airport. That was 8 months ago. And now this lawyer was telling me there was money. Money that had been waiting for me. Money my parents knew about. I called the number in the email. A receptionist answered and transferred me to Mr. Fletcher. His voice was calm and professional. "Ms. Williams, thank you for calling back. I apologize for the confusion. Your grandmother set up a separate trust for you years ago. It was very specific. The funds were to be released to you upon her passing, along with a sealed letter. Your parents were notified as executors of the estate, but the trust itself was outside their control." "They knew," I said quietly. "Yes, they were made aware. I didn't say anything. I couldn't." "Would you be able to come to the office?" he asked. "I have the letter here. It's sealed. Your grandmother requested that I hand it to you personally." I drove to Portland the next morning. It took 3 hours. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't play music. I just drove in silence, watching the highway stretch out in front of me. The law office was downtown, tucked between a coffee shop and a bookstore. I parked on the street and walked inside. The receptionist smiled and told me Mr. Fletcher was expecting me. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and kind eyes. He shook my hand and gestured to a chair across from his desk. "I'm glad you came," he said. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a manila envelope. My name was written across the front in my grandmother's handwriting. He slid it across. The desk. "This is yours," he said. "The funds have already been transferred to an account in your name. The details are inside, but I think she'd want you to read the letter first." I took the envelope. My hands were shaking. "Thank you," I said. He nodded. "Take your time." I walked back to my car, got in, and locked the doors. Then I opened the envelope. Inside was a single piece of stationery, cream-colored, folded once. I unfolded it carefully and started to read. "My dearest Venus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I suspect your mother tried to keep this from you. I've watched you grow into a woman of quiet strength, overlooked by those who should have cherished you most. You've carried yourself with grace in a family that never gave you room to breathe. I see the way they dismiss you, the way they make you small. I've seen it for years, and it's broken my heart. This money is yours, not for them, not for obligation, not to fix their mistakes or fund their choices, for your freedom. Build the life they never believed you could. Travel, rest, start over if you need to. You owe them nothing. I see you, even if they don't. You are enough. You always have been. With all my love, Grandma Eleanor." I sat there in the car, holding the letter, and something inside me cracked open. Not sadness, not anger, relief. She knew. My grandmother knew. She saw what they did to me. She saw how they erased me, and she made sure I'd have a way out. I pressed the letter to my chest and closed my eyes. Tears ran down my face, quiet, steady. For the first time in months, I felt seen. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 30. Eventually, I wiped my face, folded the letter carefully, and put it back in the envelope. Then I pulled out my phone and opened a new message to my mother. I typed, "We need to talk about Grandma's trust." I hit send. The response came in less than a minute. "Call me, now." I stared at the screen. Then I turned the phone over and set it on the passenger seat. I wasn't ready to call yet. I needed to think. I needed to decide what I was going to say. because this conversation wasn't going to be like the others. This time I had proof. This time I had something they couldn't twist or dismiss or explain away. They had lied to me, and I wanted to know why. I drove to my parents' house the next evening. I didn't call ahead. I just got in my car and went. The house looked the same as it always did. White trim, blue shutters, the flower boxes my mother planted every spring. I parked in the driveway and sat there for a moment, staring at the front door. This was the house where I grew up. The house where I learned to be invisible. Where I learned that love was conditional and attention was earned. Where I spent 18 years trying to be enough. I got out of the car and walked to the door. I didn't knock. I used the key I still had on my keychain. The one they never asked me to return because they never thought I'd use it. I stepped inside. They were both in the living room, waiting. My mother sat on the couch, her arms crossed. My father stood near the fireplace, his hands in his pockets. He looked uncomfortable. She looked ready for a fight. I closed the door behind me and stayed standing. Grandma left me $50,000, I said. 8 months ago. Why wasn't I told? My mother's jaw tightened. My father looked at the floor. We were going to tell you, my mother said. Her voice was controlled, measured. The timing was just complicated. Complicated? I repeated. Or convenient? She didn't answer. My father cleared his throat. Your grandmother was confused toward the end, Venus. That money was supposed to help with her funeral costs. We thought it was best to. Her funeral costs were covered by insurance, I said. I kept my voice steady, calm. The lawyer confirmed it. Try again. My father went quiet. My mother's face flushed. We didn't hide it from you, she said. We were managing the estate. There were a lot of moving parts. It wasn't as simple as just handing you a check. Then why didn't you tell me it existed? She looked away. Where did the money go? I asked. Silence. Mom, where did the money go? She exhaled sharply. We used some of it for family expenses. What expenses? The wedding, my father said quietly. And other things. I stared at him. Bianca's wedding. He nodded. I turned to my mother. You used Grandma's estate money to pay for Bianca's wedding. Not all of it, she said quickly. Just a portion. We were short. The venue costs went over budget and we didn't want to. You stole from me. We didn't steal, Venus. We reallocated. It was still family money. It still went to family. It went to Bianca. She stood up. Yes, it went to Bianca. Because Bianca was getting married. Because she needed help. You're single, Venus. You don't have a husband. You don't have children. You don't have the same needs. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Something final. What else? I asked. What? What else did you use it for? My father shifted his weight. We helped Marcus and Bianca with their down payment for the house. It was an investment. They needed. You gave them my inheritance. It wasn't technically. It was mine. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. It just landed, hard and clear. Grandma left it to me. She put it in a separate trust so you couldn't touch it. And you found a way to take it anyway. We didn't take anything, my mother said. We made a decision as a family. I wasn't part of that decision. Because you weren't here. You're never here, Venus. You live 3 hours away. You barely visit. You didn't even stay for Bianca's reception. I was seated in a hallway. Oh, for God's sake! Next to a bathroom, Mom, at my own sister's wedding. And when I left, none of you even noticed. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I looked at both of them. My father, who couldn't meet my eyes. My mother, who looked at me like I was the problem, like I was the one being unreasonable. You've spent my whole life telling me I'm selfish, I said. My voice was quiet, steady. That I don't think about the family, that I don't contribute, that I'm difficult. But the truth is, I was just never enough. Not pretty enough, not social enough, not Bianca. And now I know. You even took the one thing someone left specifically for me, the one thing that was supposed to be mine. Because in your mind, I don't deserve it. I never did." My mother's face went pale. "That's not fair," she said. "Isn't it?" She didn't answer. I turned and walked toward the door. "Venus," my father said. "Wait." I stopped, my hand on the doorknob. "We can fix this," he said. "We can pay you back. It'll take time, but—" "I don't want your money," I said without turning around. "I want you to admit what you did. I want you to say it out loud. Just once." Silence. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. I opened the door and stepped outside. My mother called after me, but I didn't turn around. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove. And somewhere between their house and mine, I made a decision. I was done protecting them, done making excuses, done pretending this was normal, done being the one who stayed quiet so everyone else could stay comfortable. They had taken enough from me, and I wasn't going to let them take anything else. I didn't do anything for 3 days. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just sat with what I knew and let it settle. Then I started documenting. I called Mr. Fletcher first, the estate lawyer. I asked him to send me formal copies of everything. The trust documents, the bequest letter, the timeline showing when my parents were notified. He said he'd have them ready by the end of the week. I thanked him and hung up. Then I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I labeled it Family History. I stared at the name for a moment, then opened it and started filling it. First, I went through the family group chat, the one my mother created 2 years ago, the one called Williams Family with a little heart emoji next to it. I scrolled back through months of messages. Pictures from Bianca and Marcus's dinner parties. My mother asking if anyone wanted her old dining table. My father sharing articles about golf. Bianca posting updates about their honeymoon plans. I looked for my name. I searched the chat log. I found 3 mentions. One was my mother asking if I could pick up a prescription for my father when I was in town. Another was Bianca asking if I knew a good florist. The third was my mother saying Venus can't make it when someone asked if the whole family would be at Easter. No one replied to that message. I took screenshots. All of them. I saved them to the folder. Then I went through my emails. Years of them. I searched for keywords. Help. Can you? I need. I found dozens. An email from my mother asking if I could loan her $500 when their furnace broke. I'd sent it the same day. A text from Bianca asking if I could drive her to the airport at 5 in the morning because Marcus was out of town. I'd done it. A voicemail from my father asking if I could help him set up his new phone because he didn't understand the settings. I'd walked him through it over the phone for an hour. I looked for the reverse, times they'd helped me, times they'd asked how I was doing, times they'd shown up. I found 2. One was my mother sending me a birthday text a year late. The other was Bianca asking if I wanted her old couch when she redecorated. I didn't take the couch. I saved everything. Emails, texts, screenshots. I organized them by date, by person, by theme. I labeled folders, requests for help, missed events, financial contributions, exclusions. It took hours. I didn't stop. I didn't eat. I just kept going. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. They'd controlled the narrative my entire life. I'd been the problem, the sensitive one, the ungrateful daughter who didn't appreciate what she had, who didn't understand family, who made everything difficult. But I had proof now. I had dates. I had messages. I had a paper trail that showed exactly what I'd always known but could never prove. That I'd been erased, slowly, quietly, consistently, for years. And I was going to make sure everyone saw it. Not just my parents, not just Bianca, everyone. Every aunt and uncle who'd looked at me like I was the issue. Every cousin who'd heard the stories and believed them. Every family friend who'd been told I was distant and cold. They were going to see the truth. All of it. In my words. With evidence. And they were going to have to sit with it. But not yet. I wasn't ready yet. I needed to be sure. I needed to be careful. I needed to wait until the moment was right. So I saved everything. I backed it up. I organized it. And I waited. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Bianca. I picked it up and read it. Mom told me about the money. You're really going to make this a thing? After everything we've done for you? I stared at the screen. I read it again. Then a third time. After everything we've done for you. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not sadness. Not anger. Something colder than that. Something final. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot of the message, opened my laptop, and added it to the folder. Then I set my phone down and went back to work. Bianca posted 3 days later. I was at work when my phone started buzzing. Notifications, one after another. I pulled it out and saw the Facebook alerts piling up, all on the same post. I opened it. The post was long, paragraphs of it, a full essay. The kind people write when they want to look vulnerable but controlled, when they want sympathy without saying exactly what happened. The first line read, I've been thinking a lot about toxic family members lately. I kept reading. She talked about people who can't be happy for others, people who hold grudges over small things, people who make everything about themselves even on days that are supposed to be joyful. She said she'd tried to include everyone, tried to be generous, tried to keep the peace. But some people, she wrote, just can't let go of their own bitterness. She never said my name. She didn't have to. The comments were already rolling in. Dozens of them. You deserve better, Bianca. Family isn't always blood. You're so strong. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Some people are just jealous. Don't let them dim your light. I scrolled through them. Aunts, cousins, friends from high school I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them offering support. All of them agreeing with her. All of them assuming they knew the story. I felt the old pull. The instinct to defend myself. To explain. To write a comment or send a message or post something that would set the record straight. But I didn't. Not yet. I closed the app and set my phone down. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from restraint, from holding back something I wasn't ready to release. That evening, I got a text from someone I hadn't heard from in over a year. Maya Chen. We grew up 2 houses apart. We'd been close as kids, then drifted after college. She moved to Portland. I moved to Seattle. We'd see each other at holidays sometimes, but we hadn't really talked in a long time. Her message was short. V, I saw the post. I don't know the full story, but I remember your family. I remember how they treated you. If you need to talk, I'm here. I stared at the message. Then I typed back. Are you free this week? She replied immediately. Tomorrow. Coffee? We met at a cafe near Pike Place Market. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window. She stood up and hugged me. It felt like the first real hug I'd had in months. We sat down. She didn't ask me to explain Bianca's post. She just waited. So I told her. Everything. The wedding, the hallway seat, the bathroom sign, leaving without saying goodbye, the messages, my mother showing up at my apartment, the inheritance, the $50,000 my parents hid from me, the money they used for Bianca's wedding and her down payment. I told her about the years before that too. The missed events, the forgotten birthdays, the graduations and promotions and milestones that no one showed up for. The ways I'd been erased so slowly, I didn't even notice it was happening. Maya listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to soften it or explain it away. She just listened. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. Venus, she said quietly, they gaslit you your whole life. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're just finally done. I felt something break open in my chest. Not sadness. Relief. She saw it. Someone outside my family saw it. And she believed me. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know, I said. Part of me wants to just walk away, let them tell whatever story they want. But another part of me wants them to know you're not disappearing quietly. I nodded. Then don't, she said. Tell your story. Not for them, for you, so you can stop carrying it alone. We talked for another hour about old memories, about the things she'd seen growing up, about the ways my family had treated me even back then. She remembered the time my mother forgot to pick me up from a sleepover because Bianca had a volleyball tournament. She remembered my high school graduation, how my parents left early. She remembered, and that mattered more than I thought it would. When I got home that night, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll through my phone. I just sat down at my laptop and opened a blank document. I stared at the empty page for a long time. Then I started typing. I didn't write a Facebook post. I didn't write a comment or a reply. I wrote something longer, something permanent, a full account of everything, every moment, every exclusion, every betrayal. Every time I was made to feel like I was the problem. I wrote for hours. The words poured out, fast and raw and honest. When I finally stopped, it was past midnight. I looked at the word count. Over 3,000 words. I scrolled back to the top and added a title. The Daughter Who Didn't Matter. Then I saved it. And I sat there in the quiet, staring at the screen, knowing that everything was about to change. I didn't publish the document. Not yet. I saved it. I backed it up. And then I did something quieter, something that scared me more than anything I'd written. I started saying no. The first call came 3 days later. My mother. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't mention the wedding or the confrontation or the inheritance. She just launched in. Venus, your father's birthday is coming up. I need help organizing the dinner. Can you call the restaurant and handle the reservation? Maybe pick up the cake? I sat there on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, and felt the old pull. The automatic yes, the instinct to smooth things over, to be useful, to prove I belonged, but I didn't say yes. No, I said. I'm not available. Silence on the other end. What do you mean you're not available? She asked. Her voice had an edge to it. Confusion mixed with irritation. I mean, I can't help. Venus, it's your father's birthday. I know, but I can't help. Another pause, longer this time. Fine, she said. Then she hung up. I stared at my phone. My hands were shaking, but I didn't call her back. I didn't apologize. I just set the phone down and breathed. 2 days later, Bianca texted, Hey, I need that suitcase back. The one I lent you last year. Can you drop it off this week? I looked at the message. The suitcase was in my closet. I could drop it off. It would take 20 minutes. But I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to stand in her driveway and pretend everything was fine. I didn't want to give her another opportunity to make me feel small. So I typed back, I'll mail it. She replied immediately. Seriously? It's a 5-minute drive. I'll mail it, I wrote again. She didn't respond. Then my father emailed. The subject line read, Thanksgiving plans. The email was short, just a few lines about how they were hosting again this year. He asked what time I'd be arriving and if I had any dietary restrictions to mention. Like nothing had happened, like we hadn't sat in their living room 2 weeks ago and confronted the fact that they'd stolen from me, like I hadn't walked out of their house without an apology. I read the email twice, then I hit reply. I'll be spending Thanksgiving elsewhere this year. I didn't elaborate, I didn't apologize, I just sent it. He didn't reply. But my mother called that night. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. What's gotten into you? She said. No hello, no greeting, just accusation. Nothing's gotten into me, Mom. You're acting like a stranger, refusing to help with your father's birthday, refusing to come to Thanksgiving. This isn't like you. Maybe it is like me, I said quietly. Maybe you just never noticed. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm setting boundaries. Boundaries, she repeated, like it was a word she didn't recognize. Venus, we're your family. You don't set boundaries with family. Yes, you do. Healthy families do. She laughed. It wasn't warm. It was bitter. So now we're unhealthy? After everything we've done for you? What have you done for me, Mom? Silence. Tell me, I said. What have you actually done for me? We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. That's called being a parent. That's the baseline. What else? She didn't answer. I've been thinking about that a lot, I continued. My voice was calm, steady. I've been trying to remember the last time you showed up for me, the last time you asked how I was doing without needing something in return. I can't think of one. That's not fair. You love me, Mom. I know you do. But you love the version of me that doesn't ask questions, the version that helps and stays quiet and doesn't make waves. You don't love me. You love what I do for you. Her breath caught. I heard it through the phone. How can you say that? She whispered. Because it's true. She hung up. I sat there in the silence, holding my phone. My chest felt tight, but not from guilt, from relief. I'd said it, out loud, and I hadn't apologized. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need them to see me. Because I finally saw myself. The power had shifted, and they felt it. I keep wondering, at what point does loyalty become self-betrayal? When does loving your family mean losing yourself? I don't know if I have the answer yet. Maybe you do. Maybe you've been here too, standing at the edge of something familiar and realizing you can't go back, realizing that staying means disappearing. I'd love to know what you think. What would you have done? That night, my phone buzzed again, a text. But not from my mother or father or Bianca, from Marcus, Bianca's husband. Can we talk? Just you and me. There's something you should know. I stared at the message, read it 3 times. Then I typed back. When? We met at a coffee shop an hour outside the city. Neutral territory. Somewhere neither of us would run into anyone we knew. Marcus was already there when I arrived. He sat at a corner table, hands wrapped around a paper cup, looking uncomfortable. He stood when he saw me. We didn't hug. We just nodded and sat down. I didn't say anything. I waited. He cleared his throat. Thanks for meeting me. You said there was something I should know. He nodded, looked down at his coffee, then back at me. I'm not here to defend anyone, he said. I just thought you should know. Bianca feels terrible about what happened. I tilted my head. Does she? Or does she feel embarrassed? He paused, his jaw tightened. Honestly, I don't know anymore. I didn't respond. I just watched him. He exhaled slowly. I've been with your family for 3 years now, and I've seen things. The way they talk about you when you're not around. The little comments, the jokes, the eye rolls. Like you're this difficult person who's always overreacting. And I didn't think much of it at first because, every family has their dynamics. But then the wedding happened. The hallway seat, I said quietly. He nodded. I saw the seating chart, weeks before the wedding. I asked Bianca about it. I said it seemed weird that you weren't at a main table. She said it was complicated, that there wasn't enough room, that you'd understand. And you believed her. I didn't push it. I should have. But I didn't. I looked out the window. A couple walked past with a dog. Normal life. People who didn't know what it felt like to be erased by the people who were supposed to love them most. Your mom didn't force her, Marcus said. His voice was quiet, steady. Bianca approved the seating chart. She knew where you were sitting, and she didn't change it. I felt something settle in my chest. Not surprise. Confirmation. It wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He looked at me. Because it's not right, and because I think you deserve to know the truth, even if it's hard. I nodded slowly. Thank you. He shifted in his seat. There's something else. I waited. They're planning something, he said. Your mom, your dad, Bianca. They're calling everyone. Aunts, uncles, cousins. They're organizing a family meeting, an intervention. They want to sit you down before Thanksgiving and fix this. Fix me, you mean? Fix the situation. That's how they're framing it. They think if enough people show up and talk to you, you'll see that you're being unreasonable. that you'll apologize and everything will go back to normal. I felt a coldness spread through me, not anger, clarity. They weren't trying to understand, they were trying to control, to silence, to put me back in the box of where I belonged. When? I asked. Next week. Your mom's house. She's already called half the family. I looked at him. Are you going? He hesitated. Bianca wants me there, but I don't know if I can sit through it and stay quiet. Then don't go. He nodded, looked relieved, like I'd given him permission. We sat there in silence for a moment. The coffee shop hummed around us. Quiet conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clink of mugs on saucers. What are you going to do? He asked. I met his eyes. I'm going to tell the truth. He didn't ask what that meant. He just nodded. For what it's worth, I think you should. We finished our coffee. He paid. We walked out together, then said goodbye in the parking lot. He hugged me this time. Quick and awkward, but genuine. Take care of yourself, Venus, he said. You too. I drove home in silence. My mind was clear. My hands were steady. They were circling the wagons, gathering the family, preparing their narrative, trying to corner me into submission. But I wasn't the same person I'd been a month ago. I wasn't the daughter who apologized for existing, who shrank to make room for everyone else, who stayed quiet to keep the peace. I was done being quiet. I walked into my apartment, set my keys on the counter, and opened my laptop. The document was still there. The daughter who didn't matter. 3,000 words. Every memory, every exclusion, every betrayal. The wedding, the hallway, the inheritance, the patterns, the proof. I read it one more time, start to finish. Then I opened my email and created a new message. I added 10 names to the recipient list. My mother, my father, Bianca, Marcus, my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Joe. 3 cousins who'd always been close with my parents, and 2 family friends who'd known me since I was a child. I attached the document as a PDF. Then I wrote a subject line, the truth about our family. I didn't write anything in the body of the email. I didn't need to. The document spoke for itself. My finger hovered over the send button. I thought about what would happen next. The calls, the messages, the anger, the denial, the accusations, the fallout. And I realized I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. I was choosing truth over peace. I was choosing my voice over their comfort. I pressed send. The email disappeared from my screen. Delivered. I closed the laptop and sat back in my chair. And I waited. The first notification came 18 minutes after I hit send. A voicemail from my mother. I didn't listen to it right away. I just watched the notifications keep coming, one after another. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. My phone vibrated so constantly, it sounded like a low hum. I turned it face down on the table and made tea. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I just waited. After 20 minutes, I picked it up again. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, 12 voicemails. I opened the voicemail from my mother first. Her voice was shaking, not with sadness, with rage. How could you? How could you send this to everyone? You've destroyed this family, Venus. You've aired our private business to people who have no right to know. I don't know who you've become, but you are not my daughter. I will never forgive you for this. Never. The message ended. I deleted it and moved to the next one. My Aunt Linda. Her voice was quieter, hesitant. Venus, honey, I just read your letter. I had no idea it was this bad. I'm so sorry. I should have noticed. I should have said something. Call me when you can. I saved that one. Then I opened the texts. Bianca's came first. 3 words. You're dead to me. I stared at it. Then I moved on. My cousin Jessica wrote, Venus, I always wondered why you were so distant at family events. Now I get it. This explains so much. Good for you for finally speaking up. I'm here if you need anything. My Uncle Joe, this is inappropriate. Family issues should stay private. You've embarrassed your parents. Another cousin, Rachel. I believe you. My mom does too. She's been saying for years that something felt off. A family friend, Sandra. I've known your family since you were 5 years old. I've watched this happen. I'm glad you finally said something. And then Bianca again. Everyone thinks you're insane. Mom's calling a lawyer. You can't just accuse people of stealing and expect no consequences. I set the phone down. The family was fracturing. I could feel it happening in real time. Lines being drawn, sides being chosen. Some believed me. Some didn't. Some didn't want to get involved at all. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt lighter. I'd written the truth. I hadn't lied. I hadn't exaggerated. I'd simply told my story with dates and examples and context. The favoritism, the exclusions, the wedding, the inheritance, the pattern that had defined my entire life. And I'd ended with one paragraph. This isn't about revenge. It's about honoring my own truth. I spent 29 years waiting for my family to see me, to value me, to treat me like I mattered. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm just done pretending this is normal. I'm done sacrificing my peace for their comfort. I'm done being the understanding one. I'd meant every word. I made myself dinner. I ate slowly. I didn't check my phone. I just let the silence settle around me. Later that night, I finally looked through the rest of the messages. Most were predictable. Anger from my mother's side, quiet support from a few others, confusion from people who didn't know what to believe. But I didn't engage with the hostile ones. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue. I just read them and let them go. I responded only to the people who reached out with genuine empathy. My Aunt Linda, Jessica, Rachel, Sandra. I thanked them. I told them I appreciated their support, and I left it at that. I wasn't interested in convincing anyone. The people who wanted to understand would, the people who didn't wouldn't. And that was okay. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn my family's approval, trying to prove I was worth their attention, trying to be enough. I was done trying. Around 10 that night, my phone rang again. I looked at the screen. My father. I hesitated. Then I answered. Hi, Dad. There was a pause. Then his voice came through. Quiet. Tired. Venus. I waited. Can we please talk? He said. Just you and me. No your mother. No Bianca. Just us. I closed my eyes. My chest felt tight. About what? I asked. About everything. About what you wrote. About what happened. I need to talk to you. His voice didn't sound angry. It sounded defeated. Okay, I said slowly. When? Tomorrow, I can drive to Seattle. We can meet somewhere neutral. A park, a coffee shop, wherever you want. I thought about it. Part of me didn't want to see him, didn't want to open that door. But another part of me needed to hear what he had to say. Needed to see if he was capable of seeing me. Really seeing me. All right, I said tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. Thank you, he said quietly. Then he hung up. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Wondering if my father would show up with apologies or excuses. Wondering if he even understood why I'd done what I'd done. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I'd told the truth. And whatever happened next, I'd handle it. Because I wasn't the same person I'd been a month ago. I wasn't the daughter who stayed quiet, who shrank, who disappeared. I was the woman who'd finally chosen herself. And I wasn't going back. I arrived at the park 15 minutes early. It was the same park my father used to take me to when I was little, before Bianca was born, back when it was just the two of us on Saturday mornings. He'd push me on the swings and buy me ice cream from the truck that parked near the playground. I sat on the same bench we used to share. The wood was weathered now, faded, but it was still there. He arrived exactly at 2. I saw him walking across the grass, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched. He looked older than I remembered, tired. He sat down next to me, not too close, just close enough. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We just sat there, looking out at the empty playground. I read what you wrote, he said finally. His voice was quiet, steady. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I nodded. I didn't expect you to. He exhaled slowly, looked down at his hands. Your mother and I, he said. We failed you. I failed you. I felt something tighten in my chest. I didn't interrupt. I just waited. I saw it happening, he continued. The way she treated you differently. The way Bianca got the benefit of the doubt and you got the lectures. The way your accomplishments were acknowledged and then forgotten. I saw it, and I didn't stop it. He paused, rubbed his face with both hands. I told myself it wasn't that bad, that you were strong, that you'd be fine. But the truth is, I chose peace over fairness. I didn't want to fight with your mother, so I let it happen, and I'm sorry. I stared at the playground, at the swing swaying gently in the breeze. This was the first real acknowledgement I'd ever received from him. Not an excuse, not a deflection, just the truth. Why was it easier with Bianca? I asked. He looked at me, then away. Because she demanded less, he said quietly. She didn't ask hard questions. She didn't challenge us. She just fit. And your mother loved that. She loved how easy it was. And I went along with it because it made everything smoother. And I was harder. You were more yourself, he said. You had opinions. You wanted things explained. You didn't just accept the way things were. And I think that scared your mother. It made her defensive. And instead of dealing with that, she just pushed you further away. I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I needed you to say that 20 years ago, Dad, I said. But I'm glad you finally did. He nodded, looked down again. We sat in silence for a while. The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Is there any way back from this? He asked. For us? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly. But if there is, it starts with you stopping Mom from pretending I'm the villain. If you can't do that, if you can't stand up to her and tell her she's wrong, then no, there's no way back. He didn't answer right away. He just sat there, processing. I don't know if I can change her, he said. I'm not asking you to change her. I'm asking you to stop enabling her, to stop letting her control the narrative, to stop choosing peace over what's right. He looked at me. His eyes were red, tired. I'll try, he said. I stood up. That's all I can ask. He stood too. For a moment I thought he might try to hug me, but he didn't. He just stood there, looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I turned to walk away. Venus, he called after me. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. I'm proud of you, he said. His voice cracked slightly. I should have said that more. I should have said it all along. I closed my eyes, took a breath, then I kept walking. I didn't look back. I didn't say anything else. I just walked across the grass, back to my car, and drove away. And as I drove, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something close to it. A loosening, a release. My father had finally seen me, and even though it was late, decades too late, it mattered. It didn't fix everything. It didn't undo the years of neglect and dismissal. But it was a start, a small, fragile start. And maybe that was enough for now. Thanksgiving morning, I boarded a flight to Portland. Not home. Not to my parents' house. Not to the table where I'd spent 29 years feeling invisible. To Maya's. She met me at the airport with a hug that lasted longer than I expected. Her kids waved at me from the car. Her husband smiled and took my bag. And just like that, I was folded into a day I'd never experienced before. Warmth, laughter, inclusion. Maya's table was loud in the best way. Her mother asked me about my work and actually listened to the answer. Her sister told stories that made everyone laugh. Her kids showed me drawings they'd made at school. And when we sat down to eat, there was a place card with my name on it, right there at the table. Not in a hallway, not forgotten, just there. No one dismissed me. No one made me feel like I was taking up space I hadn't earned. I was just a guest, a friend, a person who mattered. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. Later that evening, my phone buzzed, a text from my cousin Rachel. Just left your parents' house. It was rough. Your mom wouldn't talk about anything. Bianca barely said a word. Your dad looked miserable. A lot of people didn't show up. I think the family's splitting. Then another text from Jessica. Aunt Linda and Uncle Joe didn't come. Neither did the Harrisons. People are talking, V. The perfect family image is cracking, I read. The messages and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just distance. They were dealing with the consequences of their choices. And I was 3 states away, eating pumpkin pie with people who actually wanted me there. Over the next week, I heard more, through texts, through quiet phone calls from relatives who'd stayed silent for years. My mother's book club had grown colder. Conversations that used to flow easily now felt strained. People were asking questions, wondering if the version of our family they'd always seen was real. Bianca's Instagram posts, once flooded with hundreds of likes and comments, were quieter now. Fewer reactions, fewer celebratory messages. People were watching, judging. And my father, according to Rachel, had stopped going to Sunday dinners. The family was fracturing. And I realized something that surprised me. I didn't need them to apologize anymore. I didn't need them to admit they were wrong. I didn't need them to change. I just needed to stop pretending. Pretending it was normal. Pretending I was fine. Pretending that love was supposed to feel like this. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn a place I was never going to get. And now that I'd stopped trying, I finally felt free. A week after Thanksgiving, I came home from work and found a letter in my mailbox. Not a bill, not junk mail, a real letter. Handwritten. My name and address in familiar sloping cursive. I pulled it out and looked at the return address. Bianca. I stood there in the hallway of my apartment building, staring at the envelope. My name written in her handwriting. No return label. Just her name in the corner. I didn't open it right away. I just held it, turned it over, felt the weight of it. Then I walked inside, set my bag down and sat at the kitchen table. The envelope sat in front of me, unopened. I didn't know what it said. I didn't know if it was an apology or another accusation. I didn't know if she was reaching out or pushing me further away. But I knew that whatever was inside, it would matter, one way or another. I took a breath, and I opened it. The letter was 2 pages long, handwritten. The ink was uneven in places, like she'd paused, like she'd cried while writing it. I unfolded it and read, Venus, I don't even know how to start this. Part of me hates you for what you did, for sending that document to everyone, for making our private issues public, for humiliating mom and dad, but another part of me knows you're right. I've always known. I just didn't want to admit it. I liked being the favorite. I liked not having to fight for attention. I liked that everything came easy for me, while you always seemed to struggle. And I let mom treat you the way she did because it was easier for me. It benefited me. I see that now. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't know if I'd forgive me. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't the sister you deserved. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you when I should have. I'm sorry about the hallway. Marcus told me what he said to you. He's right. I saw the seating chart. I approved it. I could have changed it. I didn't. And I'm sorry. The letter ended there. No closing, no love Bianca. Just her name at the bottom. Small. Uncertain. I set it down on the table and stared at it. I thought I'd feel something. Anger, relief, vindication. Something. But I felt nothing. Just a strange, distant sadness. The kind you feel when you realize something is over and there's no going back. Bianca's apology felt real. I believed her. I believed she was sorry. I believed she finally saw what she'd done, what she'd allowed to happen. but it was too late. Not because I couldn't forgive her, but because the relationship we could have had, the one where she was my sister and I was hers, that was gone. It had died years ago, long before the wedding, long before the hallway. It died every time she got the birthday party I didn't, every time she got the college fund I paid for myself, every time my parents showed up for her and forgot about me. And her apology, as genuine as it was, couldn't bring it back. I sat there for a long time, the letter in front of me, the apartment quiet around me. I thought about responding, about writing back and telling her I accepted her apology, or telling her I didn't, or explaining how much damage had been done, how much hurt couldn't be undone with 2 pages of handwritten regret. But I didn't write anything, because forgiveness isn't something you owe people just because they finally see the damage they caused. It's something you give when you're ready, if you're ever ready. And I wasn't there yet. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. I folded the letter carefully, creased the edges. Then I stood up and walked to my bedroom. I opened the bottom drawer of my dresser, the one where I kept things I didn't look at often but couldn't throw away. Old photos, letters from my grandmother, a ticket stub from a concert I went to years ago. I placed Bianca's letter inside, not on top, just in the middle, where it would exist without demanding attention. Then I closed the drawer. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't frame it either. It just existed, like our relationship now, unresolved, complicated, no longer something I had to carry, and no longer my responsibility to fix. I walked back to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and looked out the window at the city lights below. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for my family to change. I wasn't hoping they'd finally see me. I wasn't holding my breath for the apology that would make everything okay. I was just living, moving forward, building a life that didn't revolve around their approval. And that felt like freedom. 3 months passed. January arrived cold and clear. The kind of winter that makes everything feel new even when it isn't. I started therapy in December, once a week, Wednesdays at 4. My therapist's name was Dr. Patricia Lynn. She was in her 50s, calm and direct. She didn't let me deflect. She didn't let me minimize. She just listened and then asked the kinds of questions that made me sit with truths I'd spent years avoiding. We talked about conditioning, about the ways children learn to shrink themselves to fit the space their families allow, about how neglect isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just silence. Sometimes it's just being forgotten over and over until you stop expecting to be remembered. It helped, not in a way that erased the past, but in a way that made it feel less heavy, less like something I had to carry alone. And while I was healing, I was also thriving. I got promoted at work, senior strategist, a title I'd worked toward for 2 years. My boss took me out to lunch to celebrate. My coworkers sent cards. Maya sent flowers. I was dating someone new. His name was Daniel. We'd met at a bookstore. He was quiet and thoughtful, the kind of person who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer, who remembered I didn't like cilantro, who texted to check in without needing anything in return. It was easy. In a way I didn't know relationships could be. I was building a life where I wasn't an afterthought, where I mattered by default, not by effort. My father texted occasionally, short messages, awkward but trying. "How are you?" "Thinking of you." "Hope work is going well," I responded, not warmly, not coldly, just honestly. It was progress, slow and uncertain, but progress. My mother hadn't reached out since Thanksgiving, not a call, not a text, not a card. I'd accepted that she might never, that some people can't admit when they're wrong, that some relationships end not with resolution, but with silence. And I was okay with that. Bianca sent a birthday text in late December. Just 2 lines. "Happy birthday, Venus. Hope you're doing well," I replied. "Thank you." Nothing more. She didn't respond. I didn't follow up. It was what it was. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for apologies or explanations. I'd moved past needing them to change in order for me to be okay. I'd found peace, not closure. Peace. Because I'd learned that closure is a myth. Healing isn't about resolved endings or perfect apologies or families that suddenly see the light and fix everything. It's about moving forward without waiting for permission. It's about building a life that doesn't require their validation to feel whole. I used to think revenge meant destruction, exposing them, watching them hurt the way they hurt me. But real revenge, real power, is walking away and building something they can't touch. It's being happy without them. It's not needing their approval to know my worth. Do you think some relationships are meant to end? Or do you believe family can always come back? From betrayal? I used to think I knew the answer. I thought blood meant forever. I thought family was supposed to be unbreakable. Now I'm not so sure. Maybe it's different for everyone. Maybe some wounds heal and some just stop hurting as much. Maybe some people come back and some don't. And maybe both can be okay. What do you think? Have you ever had to let go of someone you thought you'd never lose? One evening in early January, I was sitting at my kitchen table when my phone buzzed. An email notification. I opened it. It was from Mr. Fletcher, the estate lawyer. The subject line read, "Final release of trust funds. Eleanor Williams' estate." I clicked it open. The email was short, professional. It confirmed that all legal proceedings had been finalized. The full inheritance, $50,000, had been transferred to my account. I opened my banking app. There it was, the balance I hadn't seen before. I stared at the number, then I smiled. My grandmother had given me more than money. She'd given me freedom. She'd given me a way out, a chance to start over, to choose myself, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I opened a travel website and searched for flights. Italy, Tuscany specifically, the place my grandmother always talked about, the place she dreamed of visiting but never got to see. I found a 2-week itinerary, vineyards, small towns, coastal villages. I booked it, all of it. Then I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window at the city lights. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from anything. I was running toward something, toward myself, toward the life I'd always deserved. And it felt like coming home. I stood in front of the Trevi Fountain in Rome. It was golden hour. The sky was pink and orange, and the water reflected the light like a painting. Tourists crowded around me, couples, families, groups of friends laughing and taking photos. I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I thought about my family, not with anger, not with bitterness, just with quiet clarity. I didn't hate them. I didn't miss them either. They were part of my past now, not my present, not my future. They were just people I used to know, people who couldn't see me, people who made me believe for a very long time that I wasn't worth seeing, but I know better now. I spent so many years trying to earn a place at their table. I bent myself into shapes that didn't fit. I apologized for taking up space. I waited for them to notice I was missing. I believed that if I just tried harder, loved better, gave more, they'd finally see me. It took me almost 3 decades to realize I was never meant to sit at that table. Not because I wasn't enough, but because they couldn't see me. They were looking at everything else, at Bianca, at their image, at their comfort, at their version of what family was supposed to look like. And I was never part of that picture. But that was never my fault. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a coin. I held it in my hand for a moment, feeling the weight of it. Then I turned toward the fountain and closed my eyes. I made a wish. Not for them, not for reconciliation or apologies or some magical moment where everything got fixed. I wished for continued peace, for self-love, for a life built on my own terms, for the courage to keep choosing myself even when it's hard. I threw the coin into the water. It disappeared beneath the surface with a soft splash. When I opened my eyes, a young woman was standing next to me. She had a camera in her hands and a nervous smile on her face. "Excuse me," she said. "Could you take my photo?" "Of course," I said. She handed me the camera and stepped back toward the fountain. I framed the shot. She smiled. I took the picture. Then another. She laughed and posed differently. I captured that too. "Thank you so much," she said when I handed the camera back. "You're welcome." She paused, looked at me. "Are you here alone?" I smiled. "Yeah, and it's perfect." She nodded, like she understood. Then she walked away, back toward her group of friends waiting near the edge of the plaza. I stood there a moment longer, watching the water, watching the people, watching the light fade into evening, and I felt it. That deep, unshakable peace, the kind that doesn't come from getting what you wanted, but from finally letting go of what was never yours to carry. My name is Venus Williams. I'm 29 years old. I'm a marketing consultant from Seattle, and for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Not because someone gave me permission to be here, but because I gave it to myself. I walked away from a family that didn't value me. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. I stopped shrinking to make them comfortable. I stopped apologizing for existing. I built a life they can't diminish, a life where I matter by default, where I'm not an afterthought, where I'm seen. And that quiet, unshakable peace, is the greatest revenge I could ever have. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or unworthy, please know this. You are enough. You always were. The people who couldn't see it were just looking the wrong way. You don't need their validation to know your worth. You don't need their approval to build a beautiful life. You just need to choose yourself, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when they tell you you're wrong. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Thank you for listening, for seeing me when my family couldn't. If it meant something to you, if it made you feel less alone, share it, like it, subscribe, because everyone deserves to know their story matters, even when their family says it doesn't, especially then. I turned away from the fountain and started walking. The cobblestone streets stretched out in front of me, winding through the golden Roman evening. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but I wasn't lost. I was free, and that was enough.